let's do this. Thank you, Alia, Nadine, Gray, Kyla, and Wayana for stepping in today. So let's take a look at some of the exercises that we planned on talking about from the previous week. So this is, of course, a meeting of the sales chapter, and we're here to think about ways to actually get better at persuasion and negotiation across the entire company. Now, once again, this might just be a reminder for some people who are here, but I think it's good to establish. We have examined that most of the company actually works on work that's related to persuasion and negotiation. So this involves everybody in marketing and conversion, and this is why we established a chapter to actually discuss it. So there's a few things I'd like to cover today at this discussion, and I'll share those with everybody here. Vidhi, welcome, Vidhi. How you doing?
Hi, sir. Good, sir.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so we have a few things, and let's see how well we did our homework here today. But before we go into that part, so this is the assignment from last meeting, where we're going to look for two examples of written negotiation techniques that work, and we're going to look at written negotiation that doesn't work. Welcome, Lilith, to this to this discussion. Okay, so let's do this first. Actually, this can be a quick discussion, and I think this is actually pretty crucial at the moment. So let's get into it. Before we talk about the what, let's talk about the who. Who? What expectations should we have for new people who are part of this chapter, and what expectations should we have for people who are senior? Let's establish that first. Let's go over to Nadine. Nadine, what do you think? What kind of expectations? Oh, I need a secretary here today, and I would like to nominate Alia. Alia, would you be ready to be our secretary for today?
Okay, sure.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and dig into it. So let's go to Nadine. Nadine, what kind of expectations should we have for new talent that is coming into this chapter?
Okay, so for our expectation for the new talent here should be they should be a fast learner and also people that willing to hustle and like to face challenges and can work under target. That's our expectations for the people that will join this chapter, basically.
Okay.
But for the expectations should we have for people who are senior, just like what we already discussed before, the senior should be also prepare a good guidelines to make sure that the new member can be well trained and balancing the capabilities of along all the members in the chapter.
Excellent. Okay, that sounds really good. Now let's go over to Gray. Gray, do we expect that senior people should have to explain essentially what are sales and persuasion tactics all over again, or should we? What should seniors do if they want to be helpful and help others help themselves in this particular case, Gray?
I would say I agree with what Nadine said because I think you have said it. I forgot. I think it's the first discussion that we have where you say that rather than all of the new people that are gonna enter the chapter setting a meeting and etc., they can just read all the guidelines and try to apply it first and then go to us if it doesn't work.
Okay.
Like
all right.
Yes, I think that's what I catch from what you said.
Okay.
I think on the first discussion about this.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably like that.
Let's keep it to that way then. Does anybody disagree with what Gray just said? Let's go to Wayana. Wayana, what do you think about what Gray just said? Do you agree or disagree? Should senior people here try to explain their personal interpretation of what the guidelines are, or should they refer new people to the guidelines that we've established for sales, persuasion, and negotiation?
I think when we have clear guidelines, so refer to the new person to use it and how basically if our guideline clear, should be the new person will be easily implement and even like influence others in the chapter.
Okay, all right, very good. So once we have clear guidelines, then these guidelines will serve as our direction, right? We will ask new people to essentially look at those, and then we will just simply evaluate their work against the guidelines, right? Okay, sounds good. Let's see. Let's go to Kyla. Kyla, do you have any new thoughts or extensions to what has been discussed so far?
No, at the moment I agree with having guidelines, so we can support the system of self-learning.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so listen up, everybody. Today we are, let's, before we even go into talking about guidelines, let's make sure we don't reinvent the wheel. So, Kyla, have we written guidelines yet about sales, persuasion, and negotiation?
Is this about how we do the practice, or what kind of guidelines?
Do we have any pre-existing guidelines that might be useful for anybody, right?
Yes.
For understanding sales, persuasion, and negotiation.
Yes, but I think that's not really compact. So yes, at the moment, yes, but yeah, currently we are still working on it.
Okay.
We're just having that discussion last Monday.
Okay, very good. All right. So we understand that we're essentially starting from the very beginning again, right? We're going to be starting from how to architect the guidelines. And one of the things I want to actually bring us to is this, right? So let's continue a little bit from where we left off last week. So remember, we established the KPIs for how we actually will create a sales chapter. And this is very foundational and fundamental, right? So we understand that there is going to be a sales culture KPI, and those are the two parameters that we had discussed will be our sales culture KPI. We understand that there will be a persuasion KPI, and that is the parameter for how we understand a persuasion KPI. We will understand also about the difference between passive and active marketing optimization KPIs. Now, marketing optimization might be a part of this chapter. It might be part of marketing as well, but since we're talking about sales and persuasion in general, so we'll kind of encompass it for the time being, right? And as we grow, we'll probably be able to split off marketing from the key KPIs that define what this chapter is about. But that being said, I think marketing involves a lot of ways of doing persuasion and negotiation within a fixed context without having to necessarily revisit it. Okay, so this is the progress that we've made so far. The next thing that the goal that we're gonna have today is this. We're gonna have to find out a framework, an architecture for actually creating guidelines. Now, we found a few things already that everybody hopefully has brought to this discussion, but this is the issue, right? So just think of it as Nadine. Maybe we're like museum curators, okay? So we find all these specimens. Maybe it's like a butterfly. So we're gonna have to figure out how do we organize all the butterflies, you know? Do we create drawers? Do we create cabinets? You know, do we put the butterflies on pins and then stick them on boards? How do we actually want to organize all these new guidelines that we want to bring in? Now, if you don't organize it, then nobody will be able to use them because they become, you know, unfindable, right? But if you don't think about the way we structure them, then if you structure them too much, then it might actually be difficult to find the material. But if you don't structure enough, it might be chaotic. So let's attempt to actually create the architecture for what guidelines are. Let's take a look and be inspired first by another guideline. So I'm gonna show you guys a guideline that we are working on right now. Okay, this is for more of the people who are working on awareness, working on marketing. Okay, so these are the guidelines that we have essentially architected, frameworked for brand and copywriting. Okay, so what does the architecture look like? The architecture looks pretty simple. It's a table, okay? And the table has 4 columns, right? It has, the first section is what is the particular topic that we were going to talk about. Is it persona? Is it intended feeling? Is it the channel? Is it the message? Is it the tone? Is it the title? These are the categories of topics that are inside the brand and copywriting guidelines, okay? The second element is this colored portion of the table. And in the colored portion of the table, we have 3 specific columns, right? One for guests, one for partners, and one for employees. So within that, the contents of each cell within each particular block is very simple. It is, what is the principle behind the guideline? And can you give 3 examples of things that are according to principle and 3 examples of things that are counter principle, okay? So this becomes essentially the structure for the guideline. Now, what I'm going to attempt to do today is I'm going to attempt to actually borrow this as a guideline for our guideline, okay? So of course we're going to have to make some changes, but I want to sort of demonstrate what the evolutionary principle of that would be, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, okay? I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to try to put this up here. Now, Alia, you're going to be our secretary today, so this is going to be a little bit of a challenge here, okay? What we're going to do right away is, oops, that's not smart. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove that because I don't need to copy the whole thing. I just need to copy the first row, right? That's the only real essential guideline that we need to put in. So I'm going to put in guideline framework here as one of our new rows, okay? And I'm going to underline it so that it is consistent with our existing structure so that we have consistency. And consistency is
Sir,
good.
sorry, I think Nadine has something to say.
Yes, Nadine, tell us. What do you have to say?
Okay, speaking about guideline, actually, we're also working on creating an interactive guideline for BD, actually. So since this is the best time to actually discuss it, probably, Kyla, we could show Jing our guideline scenario, whimsical.
Let's take a look
Just
at
like we
it.
did.
All right,
Yeah.
I like that.
And then we could compare. Okay.
Okay, let's take a look. This is a great time to discuss it.
I don't think that's ready yet, Kak. Wait.
It is a scenario. This is this framework, right?
Yep. Let's take a look, Kyla, because this is the foundational discussion for how we're going to structure our guidelines. So let's take a look at it so we can decide which direction we want to go, either left or right. Go ahead, Kyla. Share your screen.
Okay,
So
wait.
we're planning to actually building an interactive guideline. So it's not gonna be like what is that? Yeah, like only a paper, but something like if you're a property owner and you find a chatbot in our website, something like that.
Okay.
This is actually the scenario we already divided into particular topics.
Okay.
And all the supporting document for each topic.
Okay, I see. So it reminds me a little bit of a Trello board. Is that correct? Right. So you got kind of like lists around certain things, and then you have essentially then you have subtopics within those lists, right? So the top the top bars are product knowledge, online canvassing, offline canvassing, and then you have supporting framework to delve into that. Is that correct, Nadine?
Yes, but the final output will be not like this. This is not gonna be a chart or whimsical, but it's something like I know it could be a slides or even something like this.
I see.
We're planning to do that.
Okay, here's what we need to keep in mind, everybody, right? So, all right, if we make it into, let's say, a presentation format, Nadine, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks to having it, let's say, a slides?
So we just want to make it like interactive as well. The last discussions we had, we want to make it like inspire delight to to the new members. So we will have like an introduction of business development, and then what you want to learn, and then there will be two versions. The first version would be like a guidance, so you need to keep on track. But the second version is something like library, so you can go directly to which particular topics that you want to learn.
I see. So let's go into the first version first. You said to help people keep on track. What do we mean by that, to help people keep on track?
So if you are a new member in business development, so you will need to follow the flow for whatever explained in the slides.
Okay.
So you cannot choose. So you need to, pay attention from the first topic to the last topic.
Okay. Let's do this, everybody. Let's think a little bit about. Let's go back to basic principles here, right? So let's look at the Amazon mechanism definition and see which one does it actually. How do we actually want to envision this, okay? So on that, we have essentially tools, we have adoption, and we have inspection, okay? So remember, let's not get too distracted by creating great tools, right? Because great tools is only 1/3 of the overall process for guidelines, okay? So let's remember, for guidelines to be successful, we need to have 3 parts. we need to have the tool, we need to have the adoption, and then we need to have the inspection. And the inspection is one part where we often don't pay enough attention, right? Because we just assume that people will follow the guidelines after they've been introduced to it. But this is actually one of the most important things to keep in mind. How will we keep people accountable to the guidelines? How can we create a tool that is easy to compare work and inspect the work against the guidelines, right? Because that is the tool that we want to design. We want to design a tool such that we can always take a piece of work, compare it with the guidelines really easy, and then decide, is this actually good or not? Now, when we've made something into a presentation, that is okay for, let's say, digesting the guidelines or creating a format where it's a little bit more easy for a newcomer to ingest, right? They can watch like a video slide or something, but we need to have also a tool that is useful for inspection. Now, my question is this, Nadine, given the previous tool, is it easy to inspect whether or not a piece of work or let's say a sales piece of writing or practice that somebody is following is actually following a guideline or not?
For the slides one, yeah, the one that we planned. Could be difficult. Should be difficult.
Because we have to go, which slide is it on?
Yeah.
How do we see it? And
Yes.
it's a slide does not unpack, right? Because you don't have random access to a slide. You have to go through the entire thing. So we do need something that is a little bit more random access, right? That allows us to see what the entire table of procedures are right away. So we can compare, okay, is this actually following a guideline, right? Okay, so does that kind of give us a better idea of which format to use? Let's go to Kyla real quick.
I think, probably not a slideshow at the moment. So maybe the original paper idea, just the basic library thing.
Okay, let's do this then. Let's try to imagine. Let's go with one idea first, and then let's see and develop that idea and see if it works for our purposes today. Today, the purpose is actually to find what is the correct framework for actually putting in these guidelines, right? If the framework is correct, then it should feel very easy to actually put this all together. If the framework is not correct, it will feel very difficult to do the following exercise, okay? So let's do this. Let's go to Alia. Alia, what we're gonna do today is let's go ahead and populate this guideline a little bit, okay? So we don't know what sections, we don't know essentially, okay, we don't have examples of any sections yet, right? But let's go ahead and give it some color. What I'm gonna do is this. Let's do this over here, right? Let's populate a unit cell. So this is the unit cell population. That every guideline that we're going to put, we're going to be able to categorize, does it respond to guest, partner, or to employee? And let's say top three best examples, okay? And top 3 worst examples, okay? Okay, so this one, I think we can just use this as a unit cell and populate it across. And this will be essentially the, let's say the topic, right? So we don't know what topic it is yet, but this is what we're going to go and populate, all right? So we have this framework. Let's see if this is actually good. Let's see if we can actually use this framework to grow our guidelines. All right, let's go ahead and dig into the material then. So, so now we have, okay, so let me kind of, okay, so this concludes the guideline talk, right? Let's go into the material here. So I've asked everybody to bring us 2 examples of work that they think is on guideline and 2 examples of work that is off guideline, right? So let's go ahead and take a look. Nadine, why don't you be our first example here? Before we go into this, Nadine, let's categorize this first, okay? Let's figure out what this is. So this category belongs to what? Is it a WhatsApp conversation?
Yes, WhatsApp conversations.
Okay. Alia, this is then the first guideline row that we will put in, okay? So we're going to put in WhatsApp conversations, okay? And this is the section that we're going to take a look at. So Alia, what you can do is you can go ahead and put WhatsApp conversations. Now, let's think a little bit broader. Nadine, does this only apply to WhatsApp or does it apply to all sort of text communications or instant message communications?
Yes, I would agree for instant message conversations, but
Okay.
not email. Yeah.
Okay, not email, right? So instant messaging. All right, Alia, we have been able to broaden our scope now, right? We can call it instant messaging conversations. So this is good for WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram direct chat, and all these different channels. Is that correct, Nadine?
Yes.
Okay, good. So it's basically channels where we have both the option of texting and also video messaging and maybe also photo messaging as well. Yes? Okay, all right, let's dig into it. So let's go and see what we have. Nadine, tell us why this is a good example of whatever principle you're trying to illustrate here.
Okay. So I'm gonna show that this is already following the guideline. As we see that we always been discussing the techniques of our negotiation, like labeling, acquisition audit, and I try to implement this, which is already have we have it in our guideline. And also, if you could see the response rate, it's also following the guideline.
Okay.
It's fast response.
Yep.
So since mostly the negotiation on WhatsApp, it's only for arranging the meeting. So this is succeeded to convert this conversation into a meeting.
Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and do this, Alia. Alia, I would like you to screenshot this right now using whatever screenshot tool you have. Let's go ahead and then bring it into the correct column here. So this is a good example of what, Nadine? Is it a partner, is it a guest, or is it an employee type conversation?
It is partner.
Okay, it is a partner type conversation. So Alia, let's go ahead and post it there. While Alia gets the screenshot, let's go ahead and tell us why. Why is this a good example, Nadine? Go ahead and give us some brief bullet points why this works.
Why is this the best example?
Yeah, what should people
Because-
understand from this? What should they be able to take away?
Okay. The first one, you need to have a good response rate,
Okay.
and then build the engagement by implementing the labeling technique,
Okay.
and also the acquisition audit.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's all
Okay.
for this.
Very good.
captures.
Excellent. Let's think about this, Nadine. Will a newcomer, just by looking at that, understand what is the accusation audit and what is the label?
I think we need elaborations on this.
All right. So what Nadine can do is this, right? And perhaps we can comment on that, Alia, right? Let's go ahead and comment on this photo, Alia. Let's tell Nadine, hey, Nadine, would you be able to actually visualize what is the accusation audit? Maybe perhaps by just putting a box, right, around it and call it, this is the accusation audit, and put another box around, this is the label, and put another box around whatever engagement tactics you're using, okay? And then Nadine will come back with the annotations on this screenshot, and then somebody reading it will be able to understand, right? Of course, they will receive training, perhaps by watching the Chris Voss masterclass, but then now they will be able to understand what is the accusation audit, what is the label, and how we've used these particular techniques, okay? So Nadine, we're gonna rely on you by the next meeting to bring a improved version of this, okay? So give us a photo that shows the annotations on it. And Vidi, this is what we mean by telling the story with data, right? So the data needs to have the annotations on it so that maybe I don't know what a label is, maybe I don't know what an accusation, so please show me, right, what that is. And that way a newbie will be able to read it and they'll understand. All right, great. Now, let's ask ourselves a question now. So, Kyla, is this guideline format working for us for the very first example?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This sounds great, actually.
Sounds like it's working, right? Looks like it's doing its job. All right, let's keep on going. If this is working, then it should be really easy to add information in. If it's not working, it will be kind of clumsy and difficult and stressful, okay? All right, let's keep on going. You have another example here, Nadine. What is this and what should we learn from this?
Okay, I think this is also about the accusations audit. Not acquisition audit. Something like acquisition audit,
Okay.
but not really too negative.
Okay.
And this is one of the example. Don't to put too much negatives in acquisition audit, but lay out the clear intentions why why are you talking with this person?
Ah,
And then they have
okay.
the trust is already built, and then the whole conversation will ongoing smoothly.
Okay, so this sounds like introducing the purpose, right? So you're
Yes.
introducing the purpose and you're making clear what your intentions are, right? Which is ultimately a bit of an accusation on it too. But okay, let's just call it defining purpose, right? Giving the roadmap to the client. Okay. Do you think that this is unique enough to actually warrant as a second example, or is it kind of like the same as the first one?
I think should be another example.
Ah, okay. All right, let's go ahead and do this. So Nadine, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delegate what we just did, but now you're going to look after the entire stack, okay? You're going to annotate using boxes what is the principle that you're trying to say, right? And highlight that so that people see what exactly you're doing. And then you're going to explain the why using bullet points below, and that way people read the bullet points, they'll see the example, and they'll understand. And you're going to file it under, is this partners, guests, or employees?
Partners.
Okay, same, file under partners as a second example of something that's really following the guidelines, okay?
Yep.
Okay, all right, Nadine, you already know what to do because we already demonstrated using the first guideline. Okay, let's keep on going. Let's go and find a example from Kyla. Okay, Kyla, let's go ahead and take a look at your example here. So what is this, Kyla?
This is basically just the same, the WhatsApp chat, but I didn't think of putting the screenshot here.
It's okay.
So I'm doing the copy.
It's okay, actually. That's fine. We can digest the format as long as we understand what's going on. Okay, so let's understand this a little bit more, Kyla. Is this also instant messaging, or is this another form of communication?
Yes, this one is the instant messaging.
Okay, fantastic. And what are we trying to express here? Labeling and being concise and clear intention, yes?
Yes, that's the bullet point that I took.
Okay, great. So this is actually very good, Kyla. This might be an easier format to work with. It's a little bit less realistic because we don't necessarily have that sort of, practical, live, authentic engagement, but it's actually much easier to work with because you can highlight what you mean in an easier way, right? So let's go over here, Kyla. If you were to highlight, where can I see the conciseness? Where can I see the label? What would you highlight here?
Correct. Okay, I'll do it now. For
Okay.
the labeling, it's this one. It sounds like you really understand what you're looking for. Is that correct?
Yep.
That's for the labeling.
Okay.
Wait. For the being concise is that I think it's more of putting a clear schedules on
Yes.
when we proceed to the meeting. So
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Kyla,
Okay.
I've discovered a few more things that you haven't discovered actually in this example, but let's see if anybody else picked it up, right? This is a really good example of messaging, and it has more reasons, more principles than what Kyla has actually written so far. Let's see if anybody else has seen that yet. Let's go to Wyatt. Babe, what do you see here that is a good example of sales and persuasion technique that maybe Kyla hasn't pointed out yet?
I think the mixed schedule, the timing, what time, what day,
Right, right.
that is like clear for everyone. Oh, in this time, in this day, I have to meet this person.
Call to action.
Yeah, action, yes.
Okay, really great. So this is a closing statement. This is a call to action, right? Is this time good, right? So we're closing the deal. We're not leaving it like, I'll get back to you, right? So this is a good example of being, closing the deal. Okay, let's also look for another thing, Nadine. Nadine, let's see if you can see it. There's another really strong technique that Kyla is using here. And did you find it yet?
I was thinking about that schedule as well. I didn't find any.
Okay, let's go to Alia. Alia, do you see it? Kyla's using a really strong technique for persuasion, and it is very effective. Do you see it?
Oh, I think I see.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Nadine sees it.
Is it also acquisition audit as well? Would you be bothered if I ask you?
In addition to accusation audit, what else is there? It's
It is
What? I forgot. No oriented.
Yes, you got it. You got it. It is a no-oriented question, which is really strong, right? You want to say questions like this. Do you want to see your villa be unattended and be empty for the next 6 months? No. Do you want to hire the worst property manager in Bali without knowing that you could have hired the best one? No. Do you want to let this opportunity pass you by while I call another? No. Well, then sign up today and avoid that from happening. So, correct. Kyla, you've actually stated a no-oriented question, which is a really strong persuasion. I think you did it unconsciously. You're doing it like instinctively. So this is a good example of that. It's a no, yeah, fun, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and screenshot that. This is an example. Kyla, same thing to you now. Kyla's going to screenshot this. She's going to post it in the instant messaging category, okay? And she's going to call this essentially the 3 principles here, right? There's a label, there's a call to action, and it's a no-oriented request, right? It says no. And Kyla, I really like the way you've actually used the color code. That's pretty clever, right? So that people can kind of understand what belongs to what. Okay, good call there. Okay, so let's keep on looking at this. Now by the time, where are we now? Okay, now we've already got 3 examples now, right, of what the correct way of instant messaging is. But let's think. Is there room for more? Let's go to Nadine. Nadine, is there room for more than just 3 examples of what correct instant messaging should be?
It depends how many principles that we want to show.
Right. It depends on how many principles we want to show. Correct.
Yeah.
So there is potential room for more principles, right? Okay. Let's be organic about this, right? So at the very beginning, we could only see instant messaging, but perhaps as we develop more, we can see that there's room for more ideas, right? Maybe there's more ideas for labeling, right? More ideas for no-oriented questions. So we can populate that. But let's go a little bit further and think a little bit more, right? Do we want to have like 20 categories on how you can actually do? Will anybody read those? Will anybody be able to find those? What do you think, everyone? Is that a good thing if we proliferate and just keep on stacking more rows? Let's go to Alia. What do you think, Alia?
No, I don't think so, sir. I feel like just like a concise examples of a few is enough.
Right, great. Would you use a guideline that had 200 rows in it?
No.
Okay.
No.
No. Okay. So let's think from a user perspective. Let's do some design thinking here, everyone. Let's try to be our client, right? Who is going to be the person who is going to be using this. Great. What is the max number of rows that we should probably deal with in order not to get too bogged down by details that then make us confused and hard to find like what we're looking for?
I would say, but maybe 5. I think like above 5 is already quite well. It's
Could be.
maybe below 10.
Okay,
I would
below
just
10.
say that.
All right, I agree.
Yep.
Let's go with 10, right? Because 5 is a little bit short, right? There's at least 5 channels to communicate with people, right? So if we do 5, then it's sort of limited. But okay, very good. Now let's remember this. If we are going to have 5, then we need to put the best examples up there, right? We need to put really the best examples of what works and what doesn't, okay? And look, everybody, that's why we decided on KPIs, right? So at some point, your examples need to be proven. Your examples need to actually show results, right? Not just, I think this works, right? But can you justify that this is the best example of how to do instant messaging? Can you justify how this is the example to close a deal, right? And so once you can do that, then, okay, your example goes into the guideline. But if you can't do that, then, you know, we need something to compare which example belongs and which example doesn't. Because if we put too many examples, it becomes just too clunky to work with, okay? All right, let's go with what Grace said, 10, 3 rows, okay? So we have 30 essential guidelines multiplied by 2, which is 60 guidelines, but that should be enough, right? There's a body of 60 guidelines. Most of us work with one user category anyways, so it goes down to about like, I don't know, 10 times 3 times 2. Yes, something around that, okay? So let's continue. Let's examine this framework right now. Let's go to Wayana. Wayana, babe, is this framework working for you? Is this a framework that we can use to populate, or is the guideline structure unstable at this point?
Hmm. It's like for visualization wise, it's like can be improved.
Okay.
Yeah, because by using this is like people need to click first and then and realize first. Maybe
Hmm.
we should create something more like efficient and easy
Could
to
be,
understand.
could be. Maybe one day our product people can give us a guideline database or something, right? We can just click down and it would just like you search for something like instant messaging or have it categorized and have drop down menus. Okay, but let's say for the purposes of right now, for as a sketch, right? Does this kind of give us enough structure where we're not limiting what needs to be said, but also where we can fill in the examples in a clear way? Are we categorizing the butterflies in a way where we can see where all of the butterflies are?
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. At this point, yes, to but when we have a contact, it's better understanding. But I'm just thinking as if different chapter want to learn and you just take with effort and time
Oh,
to.
this is why we have columns, babe, right? The reason we have columns is so that different, let's say, chapters, right? Well, we need to revisit our idea of a chapter. This is a chapter. A chapter works on the same skill sets, right? But let's say people have the same chapter but belonging to different user funnels, okay? Distinction, right? Different user funnels, same chapter. They'll be able to focus on what particular column is their focus, right? So HR people will come in and understand about employees, right? And what kind of dialogue to have with employees using instant messaging, okay? And same with guests and same with, people who work on the partnership user funnel, all right? So we are one chapter, but we're gonna be using different people work on different user funnels, okay? All right, let's continue and see how we're doing then. Let's go to Wyana. Um, let's take a look at some non-working examples, some bad examples, right? And let's understand why they're bad. So, babe, what is this and why is it bad?
I think it's more like casual, like this friend. It's but it's still like um, they don't have. And the bottom one is not bad, but the top one is I promise to teach you, but it just persuade, but actually, in just as a friend, like not in business. So,
Ah, I
yeah.
see. Okay, so this maybe carries the wrong tone. Is this a real example or is this something that you created?
The top one actually I find somewhere, but the one bottom is I created.
Okay, let's do this, everybody. Let's agree that whatever goes into the guidelines should be practical examples, right? They should be things that you have found or used or whatever. Because at the end of the day, remember, it goes back up to the KPIs, right? They should actually have been used, and it should demonstrate that it is better at persuasion, better at negotiation, and it should be harvested rather than generated. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look and see, are there any other examples that we can take a look at? Oh, I've got a good one right here. This is a funny one. Here's something that's not within the guidelines. Let's see if anybody sees why, right? Why is this not according to guideline, Nadine?
This one, ini present untuk private room tapi ada terus gitu. This is an inquiry.
This
I
is an
think she's
inquiry.
confused. Yeah, I think she's confused.
Uh-huh.
And I think we sent a wrong information.
This is the first touch point, actually. But good point. I didn't see that before, right? And this is why annotation is so important. Okay, thanks, Skyla. It's this. It's 8 hours, right? This is after the day had already started. So this is well within working hours, and I don't know. Maybe this is on our recovered account. This is on our recovered account, and it's already 8 hours beyond, right? So this is an example of something that is answered very slowly, right? And it should be answered more quickly. So let's go and try to categorize this. But this perhaps is also a good example of content that doesn't tell the story, right? So somehow we have a listing that didn't tell the story that necessitated the person to have to ask this, right? Is this a private room? I'm getting 3 rooms. Is this like, what exactly is this, right? So this is where, as a deep content doctor, we need to be more precise. We need to, kind of investigate a little bit more. Okay, so this could be an example, let's say, of something new. Let's go into the guideline box and see how would we create this. So Alia, all right, perfect. Alia has already created a variable here. Alia, now, what do you think this category belongs to? If we want to categorize this as a bad example of something do not do, what should it be?
I think it's about response rate, maybe, or
response time.
inquiry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's categorize this as the category of response time, right? We generally do not want to have an 8-hour response time. We should have some sort of, faster response than that. Okay, so Alia, let's go ahead and put that as a response time situation, okay? And of course, this is happening to guests, so let's go ahead and categorize this. Alia, would you be able to screenshot it, put it up here, and I need to annotate it now, so you need to comment on me and ask me to annotate it. What exactly about the screenshot is incorrect? Okay, so the once Alia has it, it's essentially this. Oh wait, this is not partner anymore. Yep, this is right. This is a very lengthy response time of past. This is at least 2 hours past our open office hours, okay? Let me ask, actually, before I write that there. Alia, where do the explanations go? Do they go below or above the picture?
I think it should go below the
Okay,
picture.
let's be consistent, because otherwise it gets confusing. Alia, you can go and take that and put that comment that I just wrote, and you can put it below the picture, right? So perfect. All right, so now we understand this. And please comment on this, tag me on it, say, Jing, please annotate our careers, right? Please annotate this particular screenshot so that it shows what exactly is incorrect about that. Okay, good. Let's keep on going and see if we find any more examples here. All right, non-working examples. Let's see. Kyla has another non-working example. So, Kyla, explain to us what is the point that you're trying to express here. Oh, Kyla's still away. Okay, let's go to Nadine. Nadine, Kyla gave this as an example. What do you think she's trying to express here?
Okay, so don't let the client go before we get the exact schedule. So generally, if the client say that I'll let you know when I'm free, it's something that never believe that, because they will never let us know. They will
Of course
never come
not.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, so we should actually try to reach a particular decision, right? I think at the end of some instant message. We should be able to gauge their interest. Is this person interested? Or are they not interested, right? Simple as that. And if they're not interested, maybe we should say, would you be interested in another month? Or would you not be interested at all, right? Would you be happier if I never came back at all, right? Maybe it has an accusation on it. Or, no, I'm serious, right? Because leaving things in kind of a misty, sort of uncertain way, that doesn't inspire delight. That makes us wonder, okay, do we really know what we're talking about, right? So this is an example of how we should not conclude a conversation. And ghosting, yeah, we essentially have been ghosted. So don't get ghosted. Try to at least get them to tell you to get out of their lives. And you can even say that as the accusation on it. Would you be happier if I got out of your life and never came back again, right? And they could say, well, no, okay, good. We have something maybe to talk about. So when is a good time, right? And if it can't give you, would a month or 6 months or a year be better, right? You can even come up with something that's hyperbole to do that. Okay, good. Let's break this down then. Kyla, are you back? Oh no, Kyla's not even here yet. She's going to restart. Okay, we need to annotate this. So Nadine, what are the principles that we're trying to annotate here?
the disclosure.
Okay. Tell us
The
more about
closing,
disclosure.
the closing, the closing.
No closing
you know
statement.
that the stage of the conversations.
Okay, very good. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's no closing. Okay, no. I'm gonna write on this to be. Okay, so sorry, Kyla. No closing. What else? What else is not there?
No time engagement.
No time engagement. Okay. Okay. And what else? What else could be wrong about this?
No decisions.
Okay. That's no closing, right? Same as saying there's
yes,
no closing. This is a
I-
yes-oriented
No
question, right?
action.
Is it okay if I ask you about it later on? That's a yes question, no?
Yep.
All right. That's not a no question. So how would we frame that into a no question? Let's go to Wayana. Babe, what do you think? How would we turn that into a no question?
Okay, good. Okay, I'll see you later. Okay. You wouldn't be mad that if I call you in 1 hour or in 2 hours?
Let's go to Nadine. Nadine, what do you think about that?
Pretty similar. Something like would I just like what Kyla did before? Would it be bothered you if I get back to you in a week?
Yes. Would you be bothered if I called you back next week?
Yeah.
No. Right? You want them to say no, but like in your favor. You don't want to bring them to a yes, because yes is non-committal. Yes is cheap, right? You want kind of like to then say no, right? Because then they could, sort of. So frame it into a no-oriented question. Okay, Kyla, we've broken this down and we've discovered that there's no closing, there's no time engagement, and it's a yes-oriented question. So this is why it is a bad example of using instant messaging communication. Okay, great. So Kyla, let's go ahead and label that, right? Using your color codes, which is really cool. And go ahead and screenshot that once it's been done and add that into this directory right here under, you get to put in the first example for worst examples, right? And populate that side. Okay, great. We don't have a lot of time, but what I expect is this. Can you each now start putting your own stuff, okay? Your own examples into the guidelines using what we have practiced here. So take your guidelines and start moving it into the guideline box. Now, this is okay, right? Because of course the guidelines won't be perfect today, right? But we need to have something in them in the very beginning. It's better to have something than to have nothing. But this is how we actually improve guidelines. We're going to take a look at the guidelines every time. We're going to ask, is this the best answer for this particular thing? And if no, we're going to replace it with the best answer, right? Whether it's the best example or the worst example of a particular thing. We're going to keep on going, Gray, until we get to 10 guidelines. And when we get to 10 guidelines, 10 rows, we're going to stop. We're going to really stop and ask ourselves, what can we combine, right? How can we optimize it so we don't have clutter, okay? And that can be part of our conversation. So let's make some decisions, everyone. So we have essentially some decisions to talk about. So what we're going to do is we're going to populate the current examples into the guideline index, okay? And we're going to give people freedom, all right? So you can create a new row if you decide that it's a new guideline, okay? And you can put what you think is a great guideline into the table, okay? But please identify yourself as the author of the guideline, okay? We need you to identify yourself as the author of the guideline because later if we decide to replace it, we should ask you, right? We should go, hey, look, why did you put this here? And then we can check if you actually understood the guideline yourself as well, right? And that's how we keep on innovating on the guidelines, okay? So definitely put yourself down as the author of a guideline. And plus it's nice, right? You wrote into the guideline. Okay, and it's through time and iteration, each time checking, that we'll actually be able to better determine this. So now this is our next assignment, okay, everybody? So next week, bring one example of something on guideline and one example of something off guideline, okay, to the discussion. So these are the two things we're going to work on. Populate the guideline table and then bring one example of something that's pro guideline, one example of something that's off guideline. That's it. If you want extra credit and do more, that's fine, right? Bring more that you think is there. And slowly, we're going to build out this guideline table. Now, before I go any further, let me check with Vidi. Vidi, is this the way that we normally would populate a database?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Does this
we
seem
love- we
kind of
love the-
familiar from CS perspective?
Yep, of course. We do log everything, like who adds and edits and so on and so forth, and who removes.
Okay, good. Because if I'm not incorrect, this is essentially a ranking algorithm building process, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
We kind of like compare the something that we want to improve to the existing one.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes up the hierarchy.
Perfect. Okay. So everybody, what we're building seems to have actual sound foundational principles. What we're doing here is we're organizing information, data, in the form of guidelines. What we want to do is we want to make sure that this data is useful and helps us be able to actually solve problems, right? And we want it to be accessible to new people so that they can learn quickly. Essentially, we're creating a database. So I'm checking with Vidi really quick because he has a database background. He knows databases way better than I do, and we're essentially kind of like humanizing the automated process, right? Okay, great. Vidi,
Actually, I only have one suggestion maybe for
absolutely.
the guideline.
Tell us.
So from what I observed in the guideline, there's only one thing that's missing from the guideline. So it looks more like a tips and trick for me, as opposed to like a guideline, because there is no condition in a sense.
We haven't written fully about the principles yet.
So maybe if we can include when should we apply this technique?
Yes.
That will actually be really helpful because, so we know that there are several techniques that we can use, but when to use it is what's missing.
Okay.
That will be very helpful for newcomers on when to use it, because I think the right timing to use a certain technique is very important.
Very, very good. Okay, all right. Context, communication culture,
Yes,
right?
context, correct.
Right. So when, where, and this is how I'd like to build it, everybody. If then, it could be an if then. But Lilith, how about this? Let's jam here for a moment. On these principles, do you think we should have hyperlinks on these principles that go back to a document that writes out all the guidelines, right? So the hyperlink then brings you to the part of the guideline that says this is what we mean by labeling an accusation audit. This is what we mean by good response rate. What do you think?
I'm muted, sorry. Yeah, I think for if we want to use Dropbox, that perhaps the best way, but later Mas Bayu would like to develop Coda, right?
Which is
In
even
Coda,
better because we can go into
because
Coda.
we
Yeah?
have the sub file, let's say, but it's structured into one database.
Yes.
So yes, that's a kind of hyperlink in this part.
Okay.
For Dropbox.
It would be even better encoded because hyperlinks on paper only link to a paper document. They don't link to a specific section on paper. So if we have Coda and we can, but look, we're just producing content right now. We can copy this content and put it on whatever platform we want. Google Doc, Coda, whatever, right? So let's get the content out there and then we'll migrate the content to a better platform that allows higher precision and more ease of use, right, when we get there. But I think this is a good direction to go, right? Like, if you're not sure of what it means, then click on the link and it'll bring you to another section that elaborates the context of what this particular principle is about. And this can then be a way to examine. Now, look, examine this, everybody. Nadine, Kyla, Wayana, when you bring on new people on board, your job as leaders in the future, right, is just simply to look at their work and go, is this on guideline? No, right? You didn't follow the guideline. Go back and read the guideline and do it again, right? And if it is followed the guideline and it's exceptional, you can be like, wow, that's really good. That should be the case of a new example of this guideline, right? So you have evolution. So you have this, remember, whimsical, right? I want to bring it back to this idea that at the same time you're creating results for the sales team, you're also creating an asset, right? And the asset gets improved and improved and improved. So the more we do, the stronger it happens. The shorter the onboarding time, the more powerful the technique, and everybody starts getting better and better at their particular roles. And we spend less time training, we spend more time inspecting, right? Right now we spend a lot of time training, right? But in the future we spend more time inspecting and keeping people accountable to how well they follow the guidelines, okay? So that's how we implement this. Don't stray away from the guidelines. People do that, right? Today we had a discussion at HR. We're reinventing the wheel again. And then I went in and I was like, are we using the guidelines in this discussion? And they were like, oh yeah, we weren't. So remember, every discussion with new people same process, right? Let's take a look at your work. Let's bring it on this discussion and ask ourselves, does your work actually fit a guideline? If it doesn't, please follow the guideline, right? Reread the guideline and show us that you can do work according to the guideline. If it does better, then we'll add it into the guideline. Okay. All right. So this is the habit I'm trying to get us into. And as soon as we get into a habit, the next time I won't need to lead the meeting, right? You guys will know what to do. Yeah? And then we'll rotate the chair around again and have everybody do distributed leadership. Okay. Feedback from me. Let's go to Lilith. Lilith, the way that we structured this meeting, the formatting that we're using, do you have any comments? What could be improved? What should we stop? What should we continue doing? What can we...
I think that's very good because it's very interactive in a way, and we can see the real example directly. Perhaps what thing that can be improved. I hear more into context with partner actually in this part. I haven't seen the connection like, okay, when this is with partner, perhaps we can duplicate it in a guest. So it's kind of integration between methods.
Okay. Right. Because right now, that is correct. Lilith has brought up a brilliant point. We are categorizing guidelines according to channel. We're not categorizing guidelines according to principles, right? So what you're seeing right now is organized according to channel. Instant message is one channel, and then, actually, no, we have a mix. We haven't decided, right? So we have a principle here, response time, and then we have a channel here, which is instant messaging. That's something maybe we need to decide then, Lilith, right? We need to decide, do we organize according to channel or do we organize according to principle? And then if it's organized according to principle, then it could probably carry over across all three. We could even simplify it, all right? Because the principle should apply to all three categories. Okay, so
I see.
Yes, decision. We need to make some decisions, but let's postpone that for another way. Let's go to Vidi. Vidi, any feedback for us this time?
Maybe just one regarding the if this is a chapter, then maybe we have to evaluate the metrics, right?
Yes.
Do we get better each week after discussing?
This is
And
what we'll
what's
look
the
at.
result? Yeah, and what's the result from this week? Is it already implemented?
Let's do that. Let's do that on the backside, right? So
Yep.
let's look at these KPIs. We'll probably have to have another discussion again, right? Because we have KPIs but no SLAs, right? We need to have
Yep.
then SLAs to determine our sales culture improving? Is our
Yep.
persuasion KPIs improving? Because this is essentially what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to use these three yellow buttons, right? We're trying to use essentially guidelines to actually do the work of these three buttons: efforts on marketing, persuasion, negotiation, improve sales culture. So that is like the vehicle that will improve these particular categories.
Yeah,
This
correct.
meeting is the vehicle.
Yeah, it's just like for example, if we maybe this is because it's still new and we're still like putting bits by bits, and then, but there is and the progression can be seen from the guideline itself. But how do we know that we're actually improving the sales culture?
Right. We look at the results.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. There's no looking at the results.
Yes, there's no looking at the results yet. Very good point.
Because there's no inspection.
For the overall result of this particular meeting, right?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. I thought about that too, Vidi, and here's my conclusion. This is my fast answer for you. The fast answer is this is better than doing not guideline work, right? It has to be better, right? Because if we don't use guidelines, then we will always have reinventing the wheel. We will never really understand what best practices are, and we will constantly be spending a lot of time training new people, right? But if we do have guidelines, then at least we have the correct form. So this, in a way, is a little bit of the innovation dilemma, everyone, right? So think about it. When cars first replaced horses, the problem was, how do I feed my car grass? You can't, right? You can't kind of like take the same metrics and apply it to, let's say, the new innovation model. But the thing I'm trying to also understand is this, right? Is this structure better? Does it give us more extensibility? Does it give us, let's say, more ability to innovate? Yeah. Does it offer the potential for improvement over the previous structure? And that, I think, is yes, right? In this particular case, this must be better than the previous structure. So this is a good decision then in this particular case. The KPIs will come and we will need to measure to make sure that we're on progress and that we can iterate correctly. But the foundational work of choosing between, let's say, using horses and using cars, I think this one is pretty clear. Unless it's not. Let's go to Vidi. Is it not clear? Could we be missing something here?
No, the discussion itself is good.
Okay, so let's keep it, right? So we know that foundationally we're building something new, but let's keep ourselves accountable for how good this new thing is so that we know how to progress, so that we can roadmap. Okay, fantastic. Let's put those up as potential discussions for next time, right? So Lil's is like, do we categorize by principle or communication channel, right? And we need more context for the method. And then Vidi's point is, how do we measure the successfulness of this chapter, of this discussion, right? Okay, all right. Lilis, Vidi, I think you guys can help us, right? Because we probably need some ways of collecting these KPIs. And maybe I'll just get this discussion started early. You can think about it. Can we automate this? Is there ways that we can automatically collect this information and give us a week-to-week reporting so that when people come into this discussion, they can see what last week's numbers are and this week's numbers, and they can see our progression over time, right, of this particular group. Okay, I think I've gone over time by 7 minutes. Sorry, I was late 7 minutes. I'm late 7 minutes here. Okay, that's pretty much it, everyone. So thank you very much, and I will, Kyla, help me remember, where should I attach the video for these discussions, Kyla?